Hello and welcome to Horror Boys. It's a podcast on the internet. I'm Austin, joined as always by
Chris.
Isaiah.
And we are the Horror Boys. And we're not just any podcast on the internet. We're a horror movie review podcast.
On the internet.
Yeah, we review horror movies.
As the name would imply.
On the internet. Because we are the horror. We are the horror. We already established it. It was probably the intro. Pay attention, guys. Come on. This is your first time listening? Good. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. We welcome you. Tell your friends. But yeah, we are currently just trudging our way through the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. It has somehow been the hardest franchise to cover. But also not... Like, I already say, like, it's a weird franchise where the highs have not been as high as some of the other franchises we've covered, but the lows have been more middling, in my mind, than the absolute lows of some of the other franchises we've covered. It's like, it's been genuinely, generally harder to cover, because you're like, alright, cool, it's another movie. Got it.
Genuinely.
But
we haven't reached this, like, total trough of
zenith.
Baby Jason Voorhees covered in goo.
Crawling back into his sister.
Which we didn't discuss on that podcast. We somehow missed that when we were discussing it that day.
Yeah.
So I guess this is if you're one of those, if you're a super fan, 10 years from now and you find this podcast, clip this part out, re-edit it for us, put it over there where it belongs. Thank you for your service. But yeah, we're continuing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and we're talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which, if you're curious about the continuity here, this is a prequel to the remake. And you have to make sure we tell you the continuity, because the movies just are weird and they just exist. This is the most convoluted continuity I think maybe in horror. Period. It is weird. But yeah, this is a prequel to the last one we watched. It is still made by Platinum Dunes. Like, they're still producing, what's the word? They're still making the movie. It's the company making the movie. They're putting it out. I don't remember the word for that. Brains poopy.
Riveting?
Sure. They might be the distributor. I don't know what they are exactly. That could be. Could be. But yeah, which our producers are Michael Bay, Brad Fuller, and Andrew Form. They are the ones who started the company. We kind of briefly talked about like what Platinum Dunes was for last time. It was to give, younger directors opportunities, was kind of the idea. Because, at this point, Michael Bay had already gotten really huge. Like, he'd already done, I think this is post, or I guess, the first time they did a movie, which was the last one, was post, what was his breakout? Pearl Harbor, I think, was one of his bigger ones earlier on. But yeah. This time around, we have Jonathan Liebsman taking the directing role. He later goes on to direct more Michael Bay-produced movies in TMNT. He made, that movie everyone loves.
Masterpiece.
Not the sequel that people kind of somewhat enjoyed. No, the first one that people pretty much just hated. And our writers are Sheldon Tyler, who later goes on to write X-Men First Class. One of the slightly better X-Men movies. And then we also have the return for our podcast. We have David J. I think it's Scow. I think it's how it's pronounced. I could be wrong. I don't remember. He directed Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 3. As well as The Crow, which, we haven't covered on the podcast, but I feel like is, more important and a probably better movie than either of these two movies from my understanding of it. But yeah, he's back, baby. He's our returning writer from a different part of the franchise that is not connected at all, but, they brought him in. Yeah. We open with a date of August 1939. Ooh, we're going way back now for a scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get some establishing shots to show that we are at a slaughterhouse, which is ended with a sliding metal door being shut. Ooh, you remember that. That's the thing. That's why you show up to these movies for the metal door.
First movie, metal door slam?
Yeah.
That's vintage.
And by first movie, you obviously mean Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, the only first movie that matters, right? No. Oh, no? Oh, that's fair.
The foundation of the canon. Yeah.
For this movie, technically,
Yes.
Yeah.
That is how that works.
Yeah. Then we meet Sloane, who she gives birth. She's working at this meat packing part of the slaughterhouse, and she starts to give birth, and we get this little creepy baby puppet Leatherface that pops out.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. It's funny, we were just talking.
Disconcerting.
We were just talking. We literally jokingly brought up we didn't have creepy baby slug, but then we did kind of in this movie have weird baby puppet, which I guess that puts Leatherface in the pantheon of Freddy and Jason for sure. If there was any doubt, we now know that he deserves to be there with them because he's had a weird little baby version of him, which does, I want to say, sorry, hate to point it out, does mean Michael Myers, get out of here. Until you give me a weird a baby puppet Michael Myers, I don't respect you.
Part of the horror pantheon, dude.
Yeah, give me a little baby puppet or slug puppet. That's also fair. We'll respect slug puppets.
That's the motto of our show. We will respect.
I mean, puppets. Halloween Ends is coming out later this year. They still have a chance.
For his birth origin story.
Yeah. As a slug.
Yeah, as a baby slug.
I will say, I mean, unlike the other two the baby puppets that we've seen covered in goop, this one doesn't scurry. He does army crawl out of the womb, or something to that effect. But we don't see him kind of, skittering across the floor like we have previously.
They had a little bit more restraint on their weird, ugly baby puppet.
The monstrous baby, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I get that he was supposed to look a little deformed, that was part of the story they're trying to tell, but it just looked cheaply done, like every other weird baby puppet we've seen. It's stop doing it. It's not working. It just feels weird.
Or needs more baby puppets.
I agree. I know I just said stop doing it, but what I stopped doing, I meant please keep doing it in every franchise. Scream 6? Show me little...
With the mask.
Nev Campbell, she didn't want to come back, right? She didn't want to come back to be Sydney. So you know what we do this time? Baby Sydney.
Baby Sydney. There was a really good one in The Fly. Cronenberg's Fly. There actually was a really effective baby puppet. I remember that. The larva.
Fair. Well, that's not what we're not talking about an effective baby puppet today. We are talking about this scene.
The rubbery ones, yeah.
Yeah. And then we cut to an outside as we have young Luda May, who is eating out of a dumpster, as you do. And she finds a little baby Leatherface in the dumpster. He's a dumpster baby, He's a prom night dumpster baby, That's cool. I'm sorry. I would like to immediately make an apology for making a Family Guy reference on this podcast. You deserve better, our audience. Yeah. I'm sorry.
And Isaiah and I had to sit there and listen to that.
Dude. Yeah.
I'm sorry. We will go back to only referencing good adult animated cartoons like South Park, which, did you know that their theme song is done by Primus? Bet you didn't know
Primus
that.
Fans know. Yeah.
Real Primus fans know.
Yeah, South Park is not occupied enough for our discussion.
Yeah, we've only talked about it once, and I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
We then get some flash bulby. I mean, it is a little time lapse. We're getting a bunch of little news clippings with some flash bulb sound effects as we go through our credits. Before we end on our new date, July 1969, which puts this movie 4 years ahead of the remake that this is a prequel for. And we immediately meet. No, we don't immediately. Sorry, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just kind of rambling. We then meet Jess, who we only know his name because unnamed boss says it. Jess is told, "Hey, you have to go tell Leatherface that the company's closing down. Everyone moved out of town. We're closing down the meatpacking / slaughterhouse. Go fire Leatherface."
Now, what do they call him in this scene?
They call him Tom, like Thomas Hewitt, or they might. I think they also might throw some sort of special needs slur at him as well because it's the '60s and that's what these characters are doing. But yeah, I don't remember specifically this scene what he calls him, but I believe he calls him like Tom or Tommy or something.
Sure, it's Thomas.
Yeah. And yeah, so Jess goes out to, deliver the task of, telling the first time ever in the franchise actually leather-faced Tommy Hewitt. He's got a little leather lower face mask, which I do really like. I thought it was kind of cool to be able to see his eyes throughout most of the movie. I liked it. It was cool. It was different. And it was also, he doesn't have a skin mask yet, because you probably wonder, what was his first skin mask, right? No, you didn't really ask that? Oh,
what was his second skin mask? Yeah. Both these questions will be answered.
Or you thought, you probably asked, like, hey, remember that last movie? There was that Uncle Monty. How did he lose his legs? Oh, you didn't ask that? Or what about, like, Sheriff Hoyt losing his front teeth? You probably were like, how did that? Oh, you didn't care. This movie has the Han Solo problem of answering questions no one asked.
No one's asking.
That is, I will say, like
all these things that these characters have wrong with them happened exactly 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and we have to show you how it happened.
And like I get it. They're trying to justify making this prequel, I guess. So they wanted to, be like, hey, see, look, this is in the continuity. Ooh, remember that? And like, I get it. It's not really. Here's the thing. They might have been one of the first prequels to do it. I don't know how many prequels there are really, but there is an element of just being like, all right, cool. What? And do we have to? And like, here's the thing. Yes. Spoiler. I kind of enjoy this movie, but the one thing I really don't enjoy is every time they go, hey, this is how that happened. It's the same reason why I never watched Han Solo, because I heard that movie was just full of that. And it's like, do I need to... Oh, really? You're telling me his name is Han Solo because he's alone? Who would have thought about that? Well, that's not just his name. That's his literally just a... Sorry. This isn't the Han Solo movie rant. Let's get back to this movie that has the same issue that movie does. Let's find out how Leatherface gets his leather mask and how he first time ever picked up a chainsaw, or all these other questions you definitely wanted to know. I mean, to be fair, I will say the Leatherface ones are questions maybe someone was asking. They're
pretty central, more central.
They matter a little more, but I will lump them in with the other ones that completely don't matter at all. Because also none of their answers are that great.
That's fine.
Yeah. They're kind of like, oh yeah, no, that kind of makes sense. None of them are like insultingly. None of them are insultingly. Han Solo was alone when he didn't have a last name, so they named him Solo. Bad, but they are still like, okay, cool. I don't think I probably could have came up with something better. It like you really kind of went bare minimum concept. I don't know. I'll move on. I'll move on and get back to the actual movie. But yeah. So he goes and he fires him, and it looks for a second that, Tommy Boy is going to get angry, but he does not. He puts down his meat cleaver, and he, seems to leave. This is an origin story. He's a good Thomas Hewitt at this point. He's not going to be killing anyone or anything in this movie. Okay, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Really not in the first few minutes, I mean... Gotta have an arc, right?
Not really. But yeah, we're going to cut away from him though. So there is at least a scene where he's not killing someone.
Yeah. One whole scene where the Leatherface isn't murdering people yet.
Yeah, we cut to a pool where we meet Eric, who is played by Matt Bomer of White Collar and Doom Patrol fame, and probably other things. I think he's also in the Magic Mike movies, but I've seen White Collar and, Doom Patrol. So I was like, hey, he's the guy from that. Cool. He's here, and he's doing some, training in the pool, because he's about to go back to Vietnam.
Go back to Nam.
Yeah.
Nam Land. It's connected.
It is. He does, serve with, Chop Top.
Chop Top.
Yeah.
Nothing else about Chop Top. Like, Chop Top still exists in this universe. He's never seen, he's not part of the family, but there is always a Chop Top in every universe.
We know he's here. He goes and serves, yeah.
Yeah. In this universe, he actually is a very successful, playwright for his musical Nomland. It was in the script for the unreleased sequel.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. That's a joke. Don't anyone try to jump
It
on.
does.
I don't think
Does.
not
It's
yet.
a hit on Broadway.
We will make it.
In the
We
movie.
will make the sequel to this franchise that no one asked for. Just like the
Well,
answers to all the questions in this movie.
It's a multiverse movie.
Yeah. Multiverse movie.
This is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre multiverse
I mean,
franchise.
that's a better explanation for this franchise's continuity than this franchise ever thought to give. But yeah, he's, doing his little training, waiting around the pool. And we also meet his girlfriend, Chrissy, who is played by Jordana Brewster, who is in a lot of the Fast and Furious franchise. She's been in a lot of those movies, like at least 5 or 6 of them. I've
never seen any of them.
Me neither. But I feel like I need to acknowledge the fact that she is an actress who's been in much bigger movies than this. But also, weirdly enough, I guess maybe because it was one of her earlier roles, this on IMDb is still her number one. Like, it gives you like the top 4. This is number 1, which I feel like is really weird. I feel like
everyone loves these movies compared to
Unless-
Fast and Furious.
maybe it also weighs it by like the fact that she's like one of the higher billed people in this, and maybe she's more of a bit character in those movies because I haven't seen them and I don't know. I mean, she's not Vin Diesel, I can tell that.
Wait, what? She's not?
But she is part of the family.
True. Family.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have a little, like character scene where we establish their relationship, and it's a. I'm not going to go into any of the details about it, but it is a completely serviceable scene where I go, okay, I kind of like these two characters together. So credit to them for like making characters that are like watchable. That is actually a hard task in horror movies for some reason. You wouldn't think it is, but like these characters, pretty much all of them are at least somewhat likable, which is kind of nice. Then we cut away into inside one of the motel rooms, where Bailey is trying to initiate some tied-up harmonica playing with Dean. But Dean is distracted by the thought of his brother wanting to go back to Vietnam. And he's also worried how Eric will react when he finds out he's not going with him.
Bum, bum, bum.
Dean the draft dodger? I can't believe it.
This is actually an anti-war, protest movie.
I mean, there is like a scene that I don't think I even get to give it that much notes because it was another one of the scenes where it's like this is very talky. It's not that important for the overarching plot. Where Dean does give some really good like points on why like war was really bad and like really has messed up Eric and how it's bad. This movie does have a little bit of an anti-war message there. Because then also the most pro-war person in the movie is Arlie Ermey's Sheriff Hoyt. So, I mean, there definitely is a little bit of an anti-war message of this movie. But yeah,
especially heroes versus the villains and their opinions on it. Yeah.
We then find what about that? We then get some more character building scenes between the two couples. We're also this. Like I said, this is where we're finding out that Dean is planning on dodging the draft. I guess it doesn't come in that first scene in the bedroom. This is like the scene a little bit later when we officially find it. I guess according to my notes. Whatever.
Well, he does say in the bedroom that he's not going to go to Vietnam. I mean,
I think what it is. I think the reason I wrote it like that is I think they cut away back outside to another like little light scene between. Is it Chrissy?
Chrissy
and Eric, and they're like kind of having a little bit like a talky scene, and then they cut back in, and we find out that officially that he's dodging the draft. I think that might be me trying to parse my notes from literally yesterday, but I guess I've already forgot.
That's fair. It's a forgettable movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Then we come back to the slaughterhouse where Leatherface cripples and then kills his former boss with a sledgehammer. Woo!
It's pretty brutal.
It is. That is one thing I guess
crunchy.
establish immediately here about this movie. It is a lot more violent.
Noticeably so.
The last movie I kind of brought up how it like kind of was one of those first horror movies to go be violent again after your really hard 80s through early 90s MPAA crackdown, followed by then the rise of Scream going, hey, no one cares about gore, make teen horror. So, like, then you have... that movie was, like, kind of the first movie to go, hey, 1, we're making remakes. 2, we're going to be a little bit more violent. But then Saw and Hostel both came out in between that movie and this movie, so they had to up their game a little bit. So yeah, he like takes out his knee and then bashes his head in before turning over and looking at the chainsaw. There's the answer! Oh my gosh, the chainsaw was just in the boss's... Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, this is an interesting scene because, like, he's working in a meat plant, but the boss is packing up his box of stuff, and, it's like papers, stapler, meat tenderizer. Like, in the first
yes, what I'm always doing in the office.
Yeah, it's like, is this like a paperweight or what?
Maybe it was like you didn't see. It was actually like it was an award for best meat plant.
He won a tendy. Tenderize the meat in the office.
He won a tendy for 1968. It's pretty kind of a big deal.
Yeah, same deal with the chainsaw.
Yeah, and then there's also a chainsaw, and he picks it up. Yeah, cool. Yeah. That's how he got the chainsaw. Once again, like, here's the thing. It's not an insult. Actually, this one is the closest to insultingly bad for the answers we get. But even it isn't like, okay, it's more just like, okay, sure, yeah. Because it's one of the things, once again, where, like, the score makes them go, like, hey, look, this is the first time he's picked up a chainsaw. Like, they want you to know that this is important. But also, it's like, okay, cool, he just picked up a chainsaw. It's not like he uses it here, or, like, is in a scuffle and then sees it and uses it for the first time. Like, that would make sense. Like, that's telling a compelling story with the chainsaw.
Yeah.
But instead it's just...
Which they do not do here.
No.
It is incredibly uncompelling.
Yeah, he just looks over and sees the chainsaw.
Yeah. They could have given the seat more of a whole beat.
Yeah.
A little bit more gravity. He just, like, there's a musical swell, and then, away he goes. They just could have been, like, just a little, like, double the time a little bit. I don't know.
Or not. I mean, I'm fine with it. Like, I agree, like, they could have, but there's also them who's like, yeah, let's just get it over. Like, who cares? No, once again, no one asked these questions, so just move on. Next scene. Let's go. I'm ready. Oh, cool. We're seeing...
Austin, forget that the chainsaw is family. I mean...
Only in the canon of 2 and 3, which aren't in canon together.
Yeah. True.
This franchise, man.
Canon in those 2 movies.
Yeah. It is a line in 2, and it is on his Saw in 3. Those movies which are in no way connected and can't be.
Yeah. Not at all related.
Actually, that's not true. They could have been. Other than, I guess Leatherface was supposed to die in 2. But if you want to ignore that, because, horror characters always come back. Somehow he got out. Somehow he survived. Fine.
Oh, no.
But instead
they have to have a whole scene explaining why he's a
the opening crawl of that movie was like, the second movie didn't happen. Here's what happened after the first. And you're like, oh, okay. Sure.
Remember that last movie? Yeah.
Don't.
No. Incorrect. Wrong answer. Allow me to remind you what you did see.
This is actually what happened in between the first movie and this movie. That second movie, I don't know what Tobe Hooper was thinking. Get out of here, creator of the franchise. Well, yeah. We then get a quick scene of the couples in a Jeep this time around. Ooh, not a van.
Oh my god.
Not a groovy van.
No, they're making
out.
That's
a war machine. That's why.
Chatting in a Jeep. Woo.
Yeah.
And then we cut away. That was pretty much that whole scene. Is another, like, just kind of, once again, though, like, I will say, like, I'm cutting away because there's nothing to talk about, but I do want to make sure it's clear. I'm not saying, like, okay, cool, another scene of that. It's a somewhat compelling scene where you get, like, good character development between them a little bit. Like, you start to, like, and, like, I want to give this movie a lot of credit for that. Like, it does do a really good job of making these characters feel like they know each other and care about each other, and they're not insufferable, which is really nice. So, yeah. Then we cut away. Back to a police officer, a sheriff. I believe he's in the movie title. His name is Sheriff Winston. He might have a different last name that we might find out in a little bit. Ooh. Oh. But yeah, Sheriff Winston, he's showing up at the Hewitt house, and he's getting talking to someone at the door. We can't see who yet. We don't see for a while. It's, it's pre-Sheriff Hoyt, Uncle Charlie Hewitt, who is still played by the amazing Arlie Ermey. He's great.
Don't show him yet, but in the car, we see the silhouette of a really long eyebrow tendril, and that's how we know it's him.
Yeah, truly.
I'll be honest. When the sheriff walked up at the door, and he said, like, "All right, your nephew," I was like, I already started writing about, like, it being Monty, because I was like, oh, it's obviously Monty. He was the uncle in the family. But no, I guess Arlie Ermey's character is also an uncle. I mean, don't get me wrong. We've also already established in the first scene that Leatherface is not actually part of the family, but he is. I don't know. That's
kind of the title he's taken.
He's the uncle of Leatherface, but he calls Luda May Mama, and she calls Leatherface her baby. So,
the brunkle. The brother uncle.
Which I guess actually, maybe it goes down to that, like, line maybe a little bit later. Maybe they're one of those kind of families, those West Virginia families, if you know what I mean. They're kissing cousins. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, they come along to to apprehend Leather. He gets Sheriff Hewitt to come along to, like, help apprehend Leatherface because he killed his boss. So, like, that's bad. I know.
Open and shut case.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they find Leather on the side of the road, which I got to bring up here because I did forget to bring it up when we first saw Leatherface. But Leatherface is still played by Andrew Berniarski. I believe is how it's pronounced. He is the guy who takes the role a little too seriously. And I will say, from the documentary on this movie, there was another line of someone being like, yeah, he's really into the role. Maybe a little too into it. So everyone always felt this way about the guy. But yeah, I also mentioned it. I should have mentioned it the first time we saw Leatherface, but I will bring it up here again because I like to always give, credit to, some of the other roles that some people might not always give credit to. That's our special effects people who, helped design the look of Leatherface and all the cool gore effects we're going to see are K&B Effects Group, which is ran by Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger, who oversaw specifically this time. Like, they did a lot of some of the stuff. Like, Greg Nicotero is credited as being a puppeter, so I guess he puppeted little baby Leatherface. Puppet. Well, he also owns the company and oversaw some of the other stuff done by Jake Garber and Kevin Wasner. But yeah, there's a lot of cool special effects and whatnot and makeup effects in this. So credit to the people who did it.
There's also Baby.
There is also Baby Puppet, which is also the same people. So I guess take that for however you want.
A mixed bag. Yeah.
But no, I mean, like we already established, the puppet is the least offensive of the baby puppets we've seen. So
yes. Yeah.
But yeah, so they get to the side of the road, they see Leatherface, and the sheriff gets out to talk to him before Charlie follows him and shoots him in the head with a shotgun. Then Charlie steals his watch, presumably his badge, we see it in the next scene, and also his hat, to a very overly dramatic music cue. Like, it is, like, the music swells as they pan over to the hat, and you're like, okay, cool, yeah, so he wasn't actually the sheriff in that movie. That does explain a little bit, because he didn't act like a sheriff in any way. So sure, okay.
Terrible police procedure.
Yeah, okay, cool. So he's not really a cop. Got it, we get it. But do we need to, like, dun, dun, oh my gosh, his hat. Oh, this is how he became the sheriff. He killed the sheriff.
I was going to say, Austin, well, this is the movie of this is how this happened.
Yeah, but I feel like this is the most egregious of it, because this music cue was so, like, loud as they panned over to the hat. And here's the thing, there's literally, like, a scene, like, about to come up of, like, him suiting up. That's where we could have had the realization answering the question of how it happened. Like, but no, instead, we had to very dramatically pan over to the hat, so he's going to be the sheriff.
Yes. Drama happens when you pick things up. Hats and chainsaws, and not when you button them.
And I'll mention it here. The composer of this is Steve Jablonsky, who was the composer of the last movie, and he's also, I didn't write down a lot of his other movies, but he is like done a lot. Like, he is a pretty big time composer. He's done a lot of composing work, and there are a couple times.
I want to say we've heard him before in a previous movie besides the last one.
I believe, I don't remember if I mentioned it, but he also did do Friday the 13th the reboot, because it was also a Platinum Dunes movie and all that. So I might have mentioned it there. That's older, so I don't. That was before I was making sure to like reference all these people who did work on the movie. So I don't know if I did, but it could have been. Also, you could have just maybe heard the name, because he is kind of you might have seen it in credits of lots of movies, because he's done a lot of movies. But yeah. Then we back at the house, and it's literally, I guess, the next scene where Uncle Charlie suits up and becomes Sheriff Hoyt. And I will be now referring to him as Hoyt like throughout the rest of my notes. It was really hard to even refer to him as Charlie for a couple scenes, but officially he was Charlie then, so I did. Yeah, he is now Sheriff Hoyt. We then have a little dinner scene, not the dinner scene of this movie, because this movie, hey, you missed it in the last movie. You were like, they didn't give us the iconic dinner scene done not as well.
That too.
But they said, we'll do it in the prequel. Don't worry. Don't you worry. But this is a dinner scene where Sheriff Hoyt is kind of just like giving his like little hoorah speech to the rest of the Hewitts, and how they're talking about how they're gonna eat people now, because that's what they have to do to survive, kind of thing.
This is our stab at sympathy for the family.
Yeah, it fails miserably.
Yes. And it's interesting because I think normally, we've never seen this big of an effort at sympathy for Leatherface or the family before, I don't think. Usually it's just kind of hints that Leatherface is abused.
I feel like for Leatherface you could say there was it's happened enough, but for the family in general, no.
No. Yeah. And in this one, it's the opposite. It's like Leatherface is just brutal from start to finish. And the family...
And they just happen to be poor and cannibals.
Yeah, they've been eaten from the dumpster since 1939.
I feel like my problem immediately, spoilers for a little bit that's coming up, is they in this scene try to go like, man, Sheriff Hoyt, he's only doing this because he's on hard times. But then we find out that, he has been a cannibal before, under distressed circumstances, sure, but he's already been a cannibal, and within what feels like only a couple weeks, he went from not eating people to literally assaulting victims. There is some implication that he assaults a woman in this movie. So have sympathy for him, but then immediately no, actually he's a horrible monster already. It's 2 days later and he's already a monster. Then he didn't ever deserve my sympathy. But But yeah, also I didn't think this scene even did a good job, even for this scene, making me have sympathy for them. It's move. You can still move. Everyone else is leaving town for a reason. You don't have to eat people. There are other answers.
And the answer in life is eat people.
It's the nearest Costco is an hour away. You're gonna eat people.
Better start eating people who drive by.
Yeah.
Save us on gas.
We head back to the couples in the Jeep. This is happening at the same time as we see shots of the sheriff on a hill looking over. You're oh, they're about to interact, because the music is also starting to swell and go crazy because they're trying to make you think it's about to happen. Then it doesn't, which I actually will say I actually kind of liked. I kind of liked that subversion of them being it's gonna happen, they're gonna interact, and then immediately they didn't. And I was all right, credit, that's fair. You made me. I started getting really mad when how much the music was, because I'm kind of a savage. I like good composing. I don't like composing that feels like it's overly holding my hand, making me you need to feel like this right now. And so I was oh, come on. Okay, cool. Yeah, they're about to interact with Sheriff Hoyt. You could have showed him on the road. You don't have to make the music go this crazy. But then they didn't, and I was okay, cool. You were actually subverting my expectations, making me think you were being that overt about it. Fair. Respect. I respect you, Steve Jablonsky, for this scene. You still did actually do it for the hat, though. So you still are, you're on shaky ground. You very successful composer who will never hear me say this, you're on shaky ground with me.
Better watch yourself, Jablonski.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You won't be able to do
Jabroni.
like 50 movies that have done, hundreds of thousands of dollars while I make a podcast that's listened to by 8 people. You want to fight? You want to fight, Steve? I'll fight you. But yeah, we cut back. We're now still in the Jeep, and Chrissy, she needs to go to the bathroom, so she gets the Jeep to stop at. Or no, it's not the bathroom. They eventually try to go to the bathroom once they're there, but she wants to stop because the store reminds her of a little store she saw in California, so she wants to go to it. The store is the little store at the gas station barbecue place where Luda May works.
Gas station. Yeah.
But yeah, so they stop the Jeep there.
Yeah, I'll sort.
And Chrissy and Bailey go inside, and while they're in there, they decide after they realize this place is kind of a dump. We don't really want to be here. No, it's not. Sorry. I'm trying to remember why. They start heading to the bathroom because Chrissy can tell something's up with Bailey, and she wants to get her to talk. So she's trying to talk to her while they head towards the bathroom, and because and this is where Bailey tells Chrissy that Dean's gonna dodge the draft. But Chrissy is actually pretty supportive because she doesn't want Eric to go because she loves him and he could die because it's a war and he already went. I could completely understand. It makes sense. He already served his country. He could stay home. I don't know, because I don't think he was having to go back. I think his was completely a choice, I think is what the story is.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly eager to do it.
Yeah. But yeah. And Bailey also tells...
the bikers that kind of cause him to flee the restaurant, right? Or the gas station.
Yeah, it's once they walk outside about to go to the bathroom, they see all the bikers. There's a lot of bikers there, and they're like, "Oh, gotta go."
A whole herd.
Yeah, Bailey also does mention in the scene that their plan is specifically to go to Mexico, so Dean can dodge the draft. They then get jump scared by the bikers, because once again, it's one of those moments where all right, cool, we could have just saw them see the bikers, and that's a scary moment, but horror movies got a horror movie sometimes where they go, here's a music sting as we see them. It's they're bikers, and they're a little creepy, I guess, especially if you're 2 girls, I could see why there's some fear here, but I hate jump scares. They feel
it's not terribly supernatural.
They're so manipulative too. It's just I react. Yeah, I might have did a little jump when it happened because the music cue made me. You're not actually scaring me. You're playing a musical note that hits my heart and goes
It's unsettling.
Yeah. So yeah, then the couples leave, and while they are driving, Eric notices Dean, who's burning his draft card in the back seat. While he's trying to still hide this from his brother, he decides to burn it in the back seat.
Yeah.
Surreptitiously,
Yeah.
It's an open air Jeep. But he spilled it.
Yeah.
He's a foot behind him.
Yep, could have done it while he was in the hotel room earlier, where Eric wasn't around at all. No, right behind Dean.
Yeah.
So Eric notices this, which causes this big argument, which I will say, once again, for my notes, it's just, there's an argument, but I will say I actually think this argument was really well done, as you have, Dean explain, his side of being you have PTSD, you're messed up from this, why would you want me to do this? And it's fair. Yeah, war sucks. It's a crazy statement to have. I know. I'm sorry for saying that crazy statement here, but having to go to war sucks. I know it's bold to say that, but I'm just saying. It kind of sucks. But yeah, so it kind of Dean's really or Eric's really getting on to him still about it. But then it kind of stops because they notice they're being chased by a biker chick who has a shotgun pointed at him. And Eric turns around, he grabs his gun, and he turns around to shoot her. But before he gets a chance, they crash into a giant cow, and they flip over, and it looks really cool. And there was on the documentary, there was a lot of information about how they did each little special effect, which was all really cool. I don't really go into notes about most of them because a lot of it's just like, here's a fake body, and that's how they did. Like, that's still cool, but like this time they like had this cow who was made of fiberglass and then just like filled it with tons of fake blood and organs, and then just had the car crash into it. And
all right,
yeah, I also believe that for like the end of the scene, Matt Bomer really wanted to actually like be in the car. Like he wasn't in the full flip of like because. Duh. Like, he's an actor. They're not going to let him do that even if he wants to. But they do let him do, like, a little bit of his own stunt, like, in, like, the closing shot of, like, it landing, which is still a little bit of, a rough thing for an actor to do. It's still typically a stunt performer would still do. But he really wanted to do it. So, cool. Good on Matt Bomer. Because, yeah, they flip and then they land, and they're all kind of messed up. Eric comes to, and he realizes that Chrissy, she's not in the car. Where is she? Bailey also has a piece of glass lodged in her side, and like they draw a lot of attention to it, and I really thought it was gonna be really important. It's not. Like, I expected like there'd be a moment where, like it got ripped out and that she bled out or something. Like it felt like they like shot it like we're like, look at that piece of glass. That's important. It's not at all. So I will say I wrote it down in my notes like it mattered, but it ended up not mattering.
And they do this kind of same thing in every movie where there's an injury that has a vaguely lingering effect that is serious enough to warrant like drama in the moment, but then never. All it does is just it kind of mildly handicaps the character. Thenceforth,
Yeah.
Like I feel like the past two movies we've seen this with like not the final girl, the secondary girl, and the guy with the afro in the last one, where it's like, oh, this character runs slowly now, and that's a problem.
It's not though.
Yeah,
it's not. She still does everything she's supposed to do in the movie, which is, die
just
at the end.
With effort. Yeah, well, yeah.
But she does, like, last a while, even so. It ended up not mattering that much. But yeah. But then Eric starts to get out to go look for Chrissy, and he immediately, like, the second he opens the door, he is at gunpoint of the biker girl, who... I don't know. I think we do hear her name like once from Holden, who's the biker guy we'll meet later, who is her boyfriend, but I don't remember it. I just wrote her down as the biker. I'm sorry. But yeah, Sheriff Hoyt then shows up, and the biker's like, "Hey, we're gonna work along with me, and I won't have to kill you and this cop." But then before she has a chance to really do anything, Sheriff Hoyt just shoots her and immediately.
Great Arlie Ermy line. Yeah.
Just kind of walks. She's like, "Hey, officer," and he just shoots her. Like before she has a chance to say any like of her, like BS story, like to like explain.
Dude, yeah.
She's just dead immediately.
I think it's something like, "Oh, officer, I'm glad you arrived." He's like, "I'm sure you are."
Yeah, and just kills her. He then starts demanding that Dean and the hurt Bailey. Once again, I wrote hurt Bailey because I really thought it was going to be important that she was hurt. It's not. He makes them get out of the car, and then he ends up hitting Eric in the crotch with his gun for kind of freaking out. He's like, "I gotta go find Chrissy," kind of a thing, and he like just hits him in the crotch and is like, "You'll thank me for that later." He doesn't. By the way, spoiler: he does not thank him.
Unfulfilled foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Sloppy writing, really.
Yeah, come on. And I think around this point, though, it's sometime around this point, Eric does realize that Chrissy is like out in the brush alive, but he like kind of tells her like, "Hey, you wait over there. Don't come over here." And if only she would have listened entirely and never came. She could have escaped then. She didn't though. She sadly will be part of the rest of this movie for her sake. It's very sad for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Eric lies and he tells Hoyt that he is the draft dodger because Sheriff Hoyt finds the draft card and he wants to know which one of them is Dean. And, Eric lies for his brother, which gets, Hoyt starting to call him a coward and says that he'll have the chance to die a hero. Ooh. And Chrissy is watching from the brush this whole time. And then Hoyt has Dean load the biker's body into the cop car front seat and has Bailey, Eric, and Dean in the back. Eric does let the others know at this point that Chrissy is okay, but not to say anything. Then Sheriff Hoyt drives it off with them. And we then deal with some Chrissy stuff for a little bit. Ooh, Chrissy story. But yeah, she goes into the Jeep looking for the gun, but ends up having to hide in there while Monty shows up with legs. Ooh, oh my gosh, are we going to find out how Monty loses his legs?
It's what everyone was asking in the last movie.
You know, I would have, looking at his age, been like, oh, did he lose them in, like, I don't know, Korea, World War II, something like that? No, it's, he lost them in this movie.
Additionally, signaling his membership in the Illuminati, he drives a tow truck, which is what gets him into this story.
And he also has leg issues throughout the movie. Is he gonna get, where's his mechanical
coincidence?
legs?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Monty's kind of looking around the car while she's hiding. He finds the gun and takes it, so she does not get to get the gun. Very sad. Could have helped her, but you know, this movie, you know, can't let her have anything. And no wins for Chrissy or anyone in the movie. Which there are justifiable reasons for why there's no wins, but it's still
wars. Because there's no winning in war.
I don't know if that's the message they're going with, but maybe. But yeah, then we cut back to the cop car, and Hoyt asks them where they were headed, and Dean does a pretty good job telling Hoyt Eric's story, being like, oh, well, I was going back to the war, you know, they were driving me there. There's a little bit of like him being like, oh, you look a little young for that. But, you know, it doesn't seem at this point, at least, that, you know, Hoyt isn't still buying the story.
Well, it's because they do a callback to a scene that we didn't really go over where Dean says, like, all the things that his brother told him.
Yeah.
And, like, a heart-to-heart conversation.
That was in that, like, heart-to-heart scene that I said was good, and we just moved on, because I forgot that it was important in this scene. But, yeah, he does, like, he repeats a lot of the same lines, and it's really well done. It was cool.
Callback.
Yeah. My throat. It's got closing in. No. Then they arrive at the Hewitt house. And after getting Leather to remove the biker's body, Hoyt takes the boys and he just, you know, hangs them up, you know, for fun. A little torture. A little fun torture. You know.
A little light torture.
Yeah. Yeah, then we go inside, and Luda May says she thinks this is a big mistake. I guess she's not wrong. This is kind of the point of no return for their family. But yeah.
Well, as Hoyt has pointed out, he has killed the entire sheriff's department.
That's true.
So,
which was in itself a kind of clever callback to a line, like a scene before from Winston, being like, I'm the whole sheriff's department at this point. And then Monty and the Jeep with Chrissy arrive at the house. Chrissy hides under the Jeep while Monty searches it and then, you know, takes a pee right in front of her face, you know.
Mm-hmm. Pee humor.
Pee joke. Yeah. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's why I show up.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to the boys who are getting hosed off by Hoyt because he wants his livestock clean. And, you know, there's once again some really good Hoyt lines about, like, you know, oh, you guys happy now? Like, it's like, you know, a clean sheep is a happy sheep. So he's like, as he's like spraying them in the face of the hose, he's like, are you happy? You happy yet? It's like, oh, gosh. Once again, Arlie Ermey is a treasure in this movie. He is great. I love him. I mean, I love to hate him. He also does some very despicable things.
He's a great villain.
Yeah. He is a very good villain. Monty goes inside, or before he goes inside, the boy's like, hey, help us down. He's like, I am not getting involved in this. Which, you know, fair. And then he goes inside, and he also ignores Bailey's pleas for help and just gets a beer and leaves.
I don't get involved in his affairs.
Yeah. Back outside, Hoyt wraps Eric's head in some like saran wrap, plastic wrap, Saran wrap, I think, is a brand name, so it might just be plastic wrap.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, Matt Bomer really had his head wrapped in, Saran wrap for this scene. Like, they would, like, if he started, like, having trouble, he'd, like, hit his knees together and they'd come, like, give him some air for a little bit. But, yeah. So, once again, a lot of credit to Matt Bomer. He was willing to do a little bit of that, car crash and then this. Like, he was dedicated to, like, giving his all for this role. And I think he does a really good job. He's also just very attractive. that was a lot.
Right.
I only bring that up because the documentary, there were just a bunch of people being like, oh yeah, he's real attractive. Oh, he's so attractive. Like, Luda May was like, oh, he's like really hot. And you're like, all right, old lady who plays Luda May. All right. Really hot. Oh, okay, settle down, Luda May. So yeah. That's why I brought up the Eric. I don't personally find Matt Bomer that attractive. He's not for me. Not my type. I'm more of a guy who plays Dean guy,
Dean guy.
I didn't write down his actor, sorry.
Can't believe you. Only giving credit to Matt Bomer.
Well, Matt Bomer, I knew who he was. The second I saw him, I was like, oh, he's the guy from,
Show.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he's from White Collar and Doom Patrol. I watched a little bit of White Collar in, like, the first season of Doom Patrol. Cool. All right, back to the movie. But yeah, he's trying to suffocate him for being a draft dodger. And after, honestly, longer than it really should have took, Dean eventually reveals that he's Dean the Dodger. And Hoyt, it's all, it takes to the point where, like, Eric stops moving before he goes, okay, it's me, please stop, don't kill my brother. It's, like, a little late, but all right, Dean.
Yeah.
Guess you made
Dean
the same
really
time.
Didn't want his face wrapped in saran wrap.
Yeah. And, Hoyt walks over and cuts open the plastic wrap, which, does, Eric is not dead yet. And he takes Dean down from his little hanging spot, and then we cut outside to Chrissy, who is running through the forest to a street. Ooh, why is she at the street? We'll find out the next time we cut to this scene. Back to Hoyt, who explains to Dean that he was a POW in the Korean War, and he had to resort to cannibalism to survive. Once again, I don't know if this is a moment where we're supposed to, like, sympathize with him for being a POW. Like, in real life, I sympathize with POWs. Like, that's very sad. Like, that sucked. Like, that would be, like, terrible. But especially if, like, you feel the need to resort to cannibalism or die. Like, that is a very tragic story that I'm sure some people actually had at some point. But, it's Arlie Ermey's version of this character who is a monster. Like, so it is one of those moments where I'm like, okay, that sucks, I guess. Then we go inside, and Luda May is cleaning Bailey up to get her ready for some company. I believe she's also starts singing at this point. She might not start singing for a little bit. It looks like I wrote it down the next time we cut to her, so I guess she's not singing yet. She's just cleaning her off, telling her, like, gotta look presentable for company. And we cut back outside, and Hoyt tells Dean that if he can do 10 push-ups, he's a free man. And then he proceeds to, beat him while he does it to, like, try to make it harder and impossible. And while this is happening, we cut back and forth to Hoyt beating and berating Dean, and Luda May cleaning Bailey and singing "Mama's Going to Buy a Mockingbird," which I believe, if I remember right, was like, if I remember from the documentary, they said that was actually, like, Luda May's idea to be singing in that scene, like the actress who played her. So that's cool. Yeah. And then we cut back outside, and at the end of the push-ups, Hoyt beats up Dean some more and leaves him to go free. He's like, hey, are you good now? After he, like, hit him, like, 5 times after doing it and, like, stomps on his spine. Now you're free.
Free. And beaten within an inch of your life.
Yeah.
But free.
He didn't say you were going to, like, actually be able to leave. And actually, I believe he even specifically says, like, a line, something to the nature of, like, I don't see you making it far, or something like that.
I don't think they'll be going anywhere.
Yeah, which, spoiler, there's gonna be a callback to that line. I know, the one main question you had when you heard this line the first time was like, are they gonna say this again? I wonder if this has anything to do with how he lost his teeth. My number one question from the first movie. Yeah. Where did I leave off? Way down here. We cut back to the road, and Chrissy waves down a biker whose name is Holden, and he agrees to help her when he finds out that his girlfriend was shot by the sheriff. At first, he's like, I don't know, whatever. Like he's not very responsive at first, but then she's like, she does make the mistake of like kind of lying to him, being like, he has your girlfriend. He shot her, but like she does like imply that she's alive, which gets him to come with her. Then we cut back to the house, and the tea lady's back. Woo, tea lady!
Everyone's favorite character from the last
tea lady.
And she talks about drinking tea.
Yep, she's a tea lady.
Yeah, she does.
She visits with Luda May while Bailey is tied to the table, like trying to like pull herself off. And they're just having a nice little casual chat while there's a literal person tied to the same table.
A captive.
There is some good dark comedy of them just not caring while this is happening. I respected that. Then we cut back outside, and Eric is able to kick his way free by breaking this beam. It's like kind of a situation where like he's on like a pulley system that's like he's tied to this beam, and he's able to scoot his way over to it and kick it, and he falls down. Now free himself. Ooh. And then he goes over to help Dean up to his feet before we cut to the forest where Chrissy and Holden are walking in. They're walking in the forest. Which, despite the cinematographer Lucas Etton's best efforts, is not nearly shot as beautifully as in the predecessor. You could tell that they were trying. Yeah, they were trying to do the same kind of shots, but they just don't work as well. Here's the thing. I don't think
it's almost more like a Twilight scene for some reason.
Fair. I do want to give credit to Lucas Etton. I don't think he did like a bad job as cinematographer. If you tuned into our last episode, you know that I really loved Daniel Pearl's last work in the last movie, and Lucas was very much trying to do the same things, and just doesn't quite get there for the most part. Then we cut back to the house, and Eric goes inside to free Bailey, and Hoyt's about to get to them, but he stops Hoyt from getting to them by trapping the tea lady between the door and a table, which I thought was funny. Because he like pushes her in, and she's like, "Oh, what do you do?" Like it's great. She's like pushed back into the door, and then he also grabs like the keys, and they go to leave, and we get a quick low-angle butt shot of Bailey.
Yeah.
Not the low-angle butt shot of the movie. There is definitely another one where it's definitely on purpose, where you're like, oh, this was definitely them trying to recreate the scene. But there was a shot here where I'm like, all right, that's a little shot of her butt again.
Sounds like...
Yeah, oop, butt shot.
I'm behind.
Ah, cool. Remember when it was like really pretty and artfully done in the first movie? Yeah, me too. Not the first of this timeline, like the original 1974 movie. But yeah, it's got to keep trying. Got to keep doing it every chance you get. That's what I like about low-angle butt shots. They get worse and I stay the same. Wait. All right. But yeah, so then they cut out. We get this like back and forth, we're getting fast cuts between these three little scenes that are happening all at the same time, which is Bailey trying to start the truck, Eric helping Dean, and Leatherface grabbing a hook. Then we cut to Bailey another time, and she gets the truck going. She starts to drive off, but the door won't stay closed. Like she doesn't really try to close it. It closes for a second, then pops back open. And Leatherface hooks her out of the car.
Yoink.
Yeah.
Big hay hook.
Which I thought was pretty cool. I believe if I'm right, she did her own stunt on this scene as well, if I remember. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it.
She was really impaled with a hay hook.
Not that.
It was
really
Like, she was actually
terrible.
like pulled out onto like a crash mat from a car. Not.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, not the hook. She was not really killed. No humans were harmed in the filming of this movie. I mean, there probably were some harmed. I mean, especially if you have, Andrew running around. He takes it too seriously. I'm sure someone was harmed a little bit. But yeah.
Chainsawing.
Then it's around the same time we cut back to Hoyt, who won't shoot Eric because he's not finished with him. Like, Eric gets like right on like the gun. He's like, "Oh, come on, shoot me!" And he won't do it. So he hits him with the butt of the gun. And then we also see Dean, who gets caught in a bear trap. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's going to be really important. No, actually, it's not. It really isn't. Another one of those moments where it's like, look at this crazy bad injury. I'm sure it'll come into the play. It doesn't. It never really actually matters.
It's just kind of a limp excuse.
It's the reason to keep
Like,
him
this
out of the
character
movie
limps now.
for a while, but not have him be dead.
Yeah. They do have to, make the limp quota.
Yeah, that's true. I guess someone has to limp in every movie. But then we cut back to Chrissy and Holden, who are arriving. It's much later now. Oh, sorry, no. First, it's a little bit later inside the day, and we're like having, like, Dean, I think, wake up or something like that. And Leatherface carries him down to get tortured, and he opens the metal door. Like, he slides it open this time, but it definitely feels like they're still trying to be intentional about, like, look at the metal door. Remember the metal door? Metal door. But yeah, then we cut to Chrissy and Holden arriving, and Chrissy finds out that Holden has no plans on helping her. He's just retrieving his girlfriend. That backstabbing biker.
Is that his name in the credits? Not
No, it's Holden.
Holden?
It's Holden. Backstabbing biker would have been a better name. That's more his nickname, That's what his friends call him.
Just BB for short.
BB. Back inside the basement, Eric sees the carved up biker hanging over a bloody chainsaw. Ooh. And then Leather knocks him out while he tries to get up, and he gets knocked out by Leatherface. We cut away, and outside, Chrissy finds Dean, has a little conversation with him, and tries to open it, and he's like, don't, and she's like, all right, and leaves him. All right, go help everyone else now. All right, don't die, I guess. She just leaves him, which is fair. Like, there are more important, he's, I guess, trapped, and he can't, there's no way to get him out of the bear trap. Then we go inside, and Hoyt is tying Bailey up, and he's groping her before we cut outside while she screams, implying the assault that I mentioned earlier. Not cool. It wasn't really needed. I get it, he's a monster, but, this could very easily, really trigger someone, and it really adds nothing. So, it wasn't really central, but it's here just to potentially trigger someone. That's cool. Thanks, movie. Before we cut out, then we're back inside, and we're in the basement, where Leather is nailing some restraints to the table to restrain Eric. He then feels Eric's face a little bit, and you as the audience obviously you're like, oh, is this gonna be where he gets the face? Oh, not yet, not quite, but yes. This is the first tease of him liking Eric's face, because as we established, that Bomer's kind of hot. Even Leatherface sees it.
First, he's got to get some arm jerky.
Yeah. Ooh.
The little slice.
Yeah, I actually think that might be in a later scene, but it is disgusting, and yeah, it does happen. Ugh. So visceral. But we're back outside, where we get a more on the nose. Here it was. A more on the nose, low angle butt shot of Chrissy, who is walking up to the house. It is not as good as even the Jessica Biel one. It's not shot as well as that one. Even it's definitely not shot as well as the original. Please stop doing this, Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I know all the movies that we're going to ever watch in this franchise have already been made. But if you ever make another one, please don't feel the need to do this shot again. It has not been good since the first movie. And even that was exploitative and technically not necessary. But it has not even been well done since the first one. But yeah.
Yeah.
And she's trying to sneak into the house. She sneaks around, almost alerting Luda May to her presence, but she doesn't. We are then led to believe that Monty heard her while he starts to get up and like go to look for her, but it looks like he might have actually heard Holden, who comes around the corner and shoots Monty in the leg. And you're like, is this how he loses the leg? Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's about 50% of how he loses legs.
Yeah. He then hides. Holden does to surprise Hoyt when he comes in to check on Monty, and Holden then at gunpoint has Hoyt lead him to the girl. He makes the mistake of only saying the girl. He's like, take me to the girl. That might cause some confusion. It does cause confusion. Then we cut down.
It's actually kind of funny.
Yeah. Then this is actually where we cut down to leather, cutting that chunk out of Eric's arm. Once again, it is disgustingly beautiful. Like, it is like, oh, visceral. Like how I respect. Is it K and B, right? Right, K and B. Is that right? I think so. Yeah. They do some great effect work. Yeah, and this arm is just gross looking.
Just exposed. Yeah.
But then he is pulled away, though, by Hoyt's calls for him. Hoyt's yelling for Tommy, so he leaves. He actually just barely misses Chrissy as she's like hiding right outside the metal door. She heard Eric screaming in pain from the arm torture, and she's able to like just miss him. And he walks away, and Chrissy then goes to the basement, and she finds Eric, who has seen much better days. His arm is really messed up, and there's actually a really sweet callback here. Once again, it wasn't a scene where, when it first happened, I felt the need to bring it up, but there's like a little dialogue where she like asks him a question like, how many? And like they're talking about like their future kids that they want to have together. And in this moment, like she asks him that earlier, and then this moment he asks her that. And it's just like, it was like, once again, this movie does a really good job of establishing like the relationship between these two characters. Like, when it came back up in this scene, I wasn't like crying or anything, but I was moved a little bit. I was like, "Aww." Like, he's dying, but he cares more about like just talking to her one last time. So I thought that was a sweet little moment.
There is a lot of like really good character connection in this movie.
Yeah.
They invest in that pretty well.
No, yeah, I definitely think they deserve a lot of credit for that.
It's not at all. It doesn't feel like an afterthought. I mean,
I agree. She asked him back upstairs to Hoyt, who has led Holden to the girl, which is Bailey, which is not the girl he was looking for. And Holden's like, "That's not the girl I wanted." And once again, another great Hoyt line. He's like, "You don't want to see the other one," which we understand because we saw her like all carved up in the basement,
disemboweled.
Yeah. And he's about to shoot Hoyt with Bailey like leading him on, like, kill him, just shoot him, please, kind of thing, which, fair. But before he gets a chance, Leatherface comes in and makes the save. He, like, knocks the gun out of his hand by hitting him with the chainsaw. It's off right now, so he doesn't, like, chop off his arm, but he, like, hits him with a chainsaws are still heavy. That would still hurt. Yeah, and then they get a little... That also makes him drop the chainsaw on the floor. They get in a little scuffle for a little bit before he pushes Holden down onto the chainsaw.
Old, unmoving.
Yeah. And then Hoyt comes in and holds him down, and he's like, "Get the saw!" And he does, and he saws through him. It's not like the most graphic scene ever, but it is graphic enough where you're like, all right, okay. Like, I kind of respect the restraint a little bit, honestly. It wasn't too crazy, but still, like, got the point across of this man was just cut in half.
Yeah. Here's the weird thing about this scene.
Okay.
They focus a lot on Leatherface being hesitant. And I guess we're meant to think like, oh, this is momentous. This is his first chainsaw kill, right? But it's one thing he's coerced into doing it in the scene. Encourage whatever, but he takes the chainsaw up into the room. What was he planning on doing with it?
He also,
if not, sawing
presumably
somebody up.
took out Biker Chick with a chainsaw because the chainsaw was bloody under her. You are right. That's a very good point of them. They definitely already implied that he killed her with a chainsaw off screen.
Yeah, and Arlie Ermey's saw him, and he's like,
Biker Chick was already very dead.
That actually could be a point. Maybe this was the first time he's ever killed someone with the chainsaw. Not at all. That could have been more powerful. Maybe if he hadn't already killed someone at the beginning of the movie, just because.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you raise a good point, and I think Chris raises a okay enough counterpoint. But I still do agree that it's not. It's still a little bit too much importance put on this when he's already killed someone and he's already used the chainsaw to, at the very least, disembowel a dead body. It's it's not that special, but they definitely want you to feel like it is. Because you know why? Because us, the audience, this is the first time we get to see him kill someone with a chainsaw.
This is the thing, and this is how it happens.
You always wondered how he killed someone with a chainsaw for the first time. It's this. And then four more.
Love knowing how things happen, right?
Yeah.
Everybody loves knowing how things happen.
Yeah.
Very essential.
You understand.
Really, this movie is the most important movie in the franchise, honestly.
No, I mean, there's so many questions answered that, we all had since the first movie.
Since
the original, 1974.
1970,
I wanted to know how Hoyt lost his
Arlie
teeth.
Ermey lost his
Even though he wasn't in the movie. I wanted to know, how did Arlie Ermey lose his teeth in the remake made in 30 years?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Why did they start eating meat? I mean, other people.
Yeah.
Why did they start eating meat?
Why aren't they vegetarian? Why aren't they vegans like Jessica Biel?
It's because they're poor, and being a vegan is expensive.
You're not wrong.
Eating people is free.
It's true.
I guess, technically...
Except for cost of ammunition for shooting the people that you're going
I mean, they also, it just seemed like they were making a soup, which they probably may need a stock, hypothetically. They might have still to buy a little bit of stuff here and there. But...
yeah, they do still eat other things besides human flesh in this movie.
Yeah, they also use human, but there were some carrots, I think, in one of the stews they had.
Carrots.
So they have some other things.
Talking about making some pies.
Yeah.
All the food groups,
Yeah.
People, pie, and vegetables.
And while he cut him in half there, I do also thought it was really cool, Hoyt and Bailey are just sprayed with blood, and just cool shots of them getting sprayed with blood. And once again, though, it felt still subdued from what I kind of expected when I saw him on a chainsaw. But I'm fine. I'm not saying that in a negative light. I kind of respect. They were a little subdued, but they still got the point across. Kind of like the first movie, but not at all. That movie's art, and this movie is definitely not art. But yeah. Back down in the basement, and Chrissy hides under the table. As Eric's on, and Leatherface comes in, and he, chainsaws through Eric, through Eric and the table, yeah, and it's right in front of her face. All his blood is getting splattered all over her. You
would think after working in a meat packing plant for so long, he would be a little bit more, delicate with his chainsaw usage.
I guess but he wasn't used to using it. He didn't use a chainsaw in the meat packing plant.
Boss just had it in his office for.
Yeah.
Well, I remember that when I, was cutting up meat, I always wanted to put the knife through the table.
Well, here's the thing. He's only ever used the chainsaw to kill someone once. He doesn't understand the power of the saw yet.
And he did have to lift the chainsaw through the person.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, but also it was a cool shot, and that's really why that's the answer. Why did he cut through the table? So we could see it right in her face and have that tension.
Great tension.
He chainsaw.
But yeah, he doesn't end up hitting her with the chainsaw though. I thought this was a pretty cool kill. I like this kill. This is one of the really violent kills we have in the movie. There's a lot of blood splattering everywhere. A lot of a little bit of, I think a little bit of, you see a little bit of meat flying out too. It's cool. I like cool kills. I am a gorehound, or whatever you want to call me. A lot of different names for us I am going to therapy for it. Don't worry. I am in Gore Anonymous.
I am seeing the therapist.
Yeah. You understand. I have problems. But Leatherface then cuts off Eric's face and makes a skin mask with it. Oh my gosh, the first skin mask? You always wondered how he did that. I mean, that actually, to be fair, that might be the one question that someone might have actually had about Leatherface as a character.
Yeah.
Like, that is, I know I mock it, because this movie is one of the... Honestly, I might need to change my mindset of thinking of this as a Han Solo movie, and maybe Han Solo is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning movie. But, for me, I didn't know about this movie before I knew about Han Solo doing this, so it will always be a Han Solo type movie where it's like, no one asked this. No one cares. This is still, I still like this movie. I still think it's a pretty good movie, but no one cared about any of the questions they asked. And yeah, but yeah, he makes a skin mask. This is all while Chrissy has to watch on, horrified. After Leather leaves Chrissy to go upstairs, he gets called away again. Chrissy gets up to follow and leave as well, and she trips and falls in the water because I guess we got to get the female lead soaking wet at some point in the movie. Yeah. I will also say was my initial thought when I saw it, but to ever so slightly maybe give this movie credit, I rewatched the remake with my dad yesterday. And because it was the first time he was watching it, because we record the podcast for Peek Behind the Curtain. We record the podcast a week before it comes out, so my dad's trying to get ready for the episode that's about to come out tomorrow. But so I rewatched it with him last night, and there is one throwaway line in the end credits scene where the cop is talking to the cameraman. He's like, "Oh, watch your step right there. It's a big fall." So maybe she's tripping on that. It's around the right placement. So, I'll give the movie credit that maybe that's what they were trying to do to justify getting the female lead in a white shirt wet. But also, it's a Michael Bay produced movie, and I point to Transformers and Megan Fox changing the oil on the car. It's maybe they just want to objectify women. There's a very good chance of that.
Amen, brother.
We hate to inform that this is actually Chris's last week on the podcast. After that line, we have to cancel him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Chrissy trips. There we are. Yeah, so then Chrissy heads upstairs after that, and she's just about to escape when she hears Bailey scream for help. And she thinks about it for a moment, but she does do the right thing, I say in quotes, because we find out it's not the right thing for her. But she does the right thing and goes back in to help Bailey. And she goes upstairs to try to find Bailey, and I thought initially we were supposed to be seeing this from her point of view, but I don't know if we actually were. But we see a scene where Leatherface, at Hoyt's request, chops off Uncle Monty, goes to chop off Uncle Monty's leg that was shot, but he accidentally nicks his other leg, so, Hoyt's like, alright, gotta cut up, even it out. So he cuts off both his legs.
Yep.
Answering the age-old question of how he lost his legs. I mean, I'm wrong, it was cool gore, and there was, some funny humor in it from him I guess, just even out, I don't mind the scene, but it is, once again, one of those things where no one asked this question. The answer they gave us isn't terrible. It might be the best answer to these questions we get because it's got humor and cool gore. But it was also no one asked.
Monty gets to eat his own legs later.
Does he? Cool. I missed that. That's great.
Well, no, I'm just that's implied because it's human meat, and that would be waste not to eat.
You might be right. I'm disappointed that they didn't be very on the nose about that, because they should have. That would have been really funny to have him eating his own legs and Hoyt laughing at him for it or something. But they didn't. Very disappointed.
Characteristic.
As she tries
opportunity.
Yeah. Chrissy's trying to sneak around, she gets a little jump scare by Hoyt looking out the window. He's looking at his own reflection, so he doesn't see her, but she sees him and gets scared, and it's got that classic jump scare music cue. I will say this one I actually kind of liked because it really caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it at all, so I was like, okay, all right, okay, movie. But yeah, then Chrissy gets into the room with Bailey, and she starts to untie Bailey, but she's not going to get to save her here because Hoyt comes in and invites her to stay for dinner. She then wakes up as Hoyt and Luda May are prepping dinner. They have a little kind of conversation about whose fingers are these on the floor? Like, it's a silly little scene between them. It's just kind of Chrissy watching on, half dazed. And I think Hoyt kind of realizes she's waking up and I guess knocks her out again because she then goes back out and then wakes up again at the dinner scene. She's all tied up, baby. We're back. You asked for it. No, oh, you didn't? Oh, that was one of the things I actually praised about the last movie was that they just made a joke about asking her to stay for dinner and then didn't do it. Yeah, no, here's the dinner scene. Yeah, she's tied up. We're introing the dinner scene. We're seeing Luda May, who is singing some more as she's cutting Bailey's hair. She just seems completely dead inside. We do find out, I guess, later in the scene that part of this might be because she had her teeth knocked out already, so she can't scream. I guess, not that stops you from screaming or freaking out, but I don't know.
Can't scream without your teeth.
Yeah, she just seems really dead inside, very docile.
Babies don't scream.
Well, she was just assaulted, so
yeah, no, and that's fair. But the thing is, I'd agree if she hadn't just post the implied assault already been screaming for help a scene ago. So, but now she's just completely given up and is just letting her hair get cut by Luda May, who's still singing, and it's still creepy and eerie hearing her sing while she's basically torturing this girl. It's oh gosh, stop it. But don't, because it's making me feel that way, and I want to feel that way because it's a horror movie. But but yeah, then after Hoyt says grace for the meal, Chrissy then accuses the Hewitts of playing harmonica with their cousin. They are kissing cousins. That really offends them. Hoyt yells at Chrissy, and then walks over to Bailey and reveals that she has no more teeth and they've been knocked out. Then he gets Leatherface to come in and slit Bailey's throat. And it's a lot of blood, and I always love some cool, gore effects. But yeah. So Bailey's dead. She went through all that trauma just to, still die. She doesn't get a hero's redemption, to come out of... No, she's dead now. Yeah. Hoyt then tells Leatherface to take Chrissy to the basement. Chrissy is able to grab either a screwdriver or an ice pick. I'm not sure exactly what it is. It's some sort of pointy thing she grabs with a handle. She grabs it, and as he's he starts carrying her off. She stabs him in the back, which causes him to drop her. What'd you say? Sorry.
Just buries it in his bag.
Yeah. Adrenaline. She's trying to save her life. But yeah, she is able to. Yeah, she stabs him. She's about to head towards the door, but she's stopped because Hoyt's right there. So she turns and she runs through the window, breaking it. Woo! Texas Chainsaw. I mean, I say it like it's kind of a joke because at this point it is a trope for this franchise, but it is always cool to see a window break. It's glass breaking. It's cool looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she jumps out the window, and Leatherface starts to chase her through the field with his chainsaw. Before we cut back inside to Dean waking up, and he runs over and he knocks Hoyt down. He's coming back inside and just attacks him, take him to the ground, bashing his head in, And you're like, oh yeah, this is so. Oh wait, no, he can't die. Why am I supposed to care? This is this has that classic prequel problem of he is destroying this man, but we know that he can't actually do anything that matters because it's a prequel.
Whoa! Anything that matters, he loses front teeth.
You're not wrong there. And I will also say about this scene that as much as I do still think it falls from, well, both the Han Solo problem and the prequel problem in the same scene of, asking questions no one answered and being kind of pointless because we know he can't die. I will say it was actually really well done. I really liked everything Dean was saying as he was doing was all like callbacks to things that Hoyt had yelled at him while he was beating him earlier, and he ends it with the same I don't think you're gonna be getting up, and he leaves. Which once again, I like a good callback to something earlier in the movie to make it feel more important. So I respect that a lot. Yeah.
That's bitter irony. Yeah.
Yeah. As he's just about to leave, Hoyt spits out his top teeth, and you're like, "Whoa, that's the answer." Great, cool. No one cared. Moving on. Back to the previously scheduled Leatherface chases the final girl with his chainsaw through the forest scene. Woo, yeah. This hasn't gotten old at all in the 5 movies we've seen it in. This one, like the remake, ends at a slaughterhouse. I believe it is a different slaughterhouse. This is the same slaughterhouse from the opening and I guess there's the double opening scene of where Leatherface was born and where he did his first kill. But I do think it is a different one just because this one's closed down and would have done massive renovations, and all that to happen in just 4 years feels... Also, I don't know why there'd even be another meatpacking plant in this deserted town. That's a whole different plot hole that I guess that doesn't matter. Everyone left the town in this movie because it's so messed up of a town and doesn't... But there is a new meatpacking plant or another one that stayed in business, or it's the same one that's been now rebought and reinvented. Either way, kind of crazy that they had that nice of a meat plant that was still functional because Jessica Biel had to hide in meat. It was real. It wasn't an old abandoned one. I don't know.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, the town is deserted according to this movie, but in 4 years they repopulated enough to have a new meatpacking plant.
But not enough to discourage cannibalism.
Yeah. Well, now at this point they have a taste for it.
There is that. Yeah.
But yeah, she finds the corpse of Leatherface's old boss, and she also finds his keys and a knife. But Leather finds her, so the chase is back on. Woo, chase scene! We're now in the hide and seek portion of the chase, as she hides in this vat of animal blood. There's a bunch of them. I guess here's the thing: the fact that there's so many of them, all filled with blood, makes me think this is actually some sort of process from slaughterhouses that I don't know because I don't know 60s slaughterhouse technology. I don't know how they worked. But yeah, there's a bunch of these vats of blood that she's hiding in. She's hiding in one of them. She's not hiding in all of them. That'd be kind of really impressive.
All of them, all at once.
Yeah. And then Leatherface is about to find her, and Dean shows up and distracts him by calling for her. So she slices at Leatherface to literally no avail whatsoever, because Leatherface just throws her to the ground and is about to chainsaw her when Dean runs in and cleaves him. Also to literally no avail, because it immediately, as he's trying to pick up her, Leatherface sticks his chainsaw straight through his back and lifts him up. This I will say about this movie, at least so far, I don't know how about some of the later ones. This is definitely, when it comes to chainsaw kills, this is the movie that has set the standard currently. They have done some really cool, innovative chainsaw kills when really there haven't been a lot of chainsaw kills really in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first movie you have forgot his name, Franklin, get chainsawed mostly off screen. I don't know if two I guess Leatherface gets sawed.
It's funny that's the chainsaw death.
Yeah. 3, I don't remember there being a chainsaw death. 4, also, don't believe there was a chainsaw death.
Well, in 2, you have to give credit for the initial one, lopping the guy's head
that's
off
true.
in the
No, you're
truck.
right. That one, you are completely right. That was one of the best chainsaw kills, but that movie still only really had one definitive chainsaw kill, because Leatherface was still fighting, and it was the grenade that killed him. But yeah, so the point is, this movie has like 3 or 4, and like credit to it, like they did the Chainsaw Massacre thing that you would have thought the whole franchise would have been.
Who would have thought?
It took 6 movies to get to the point where there was actually a Chainsaw Massacre.
And not a hammer.
Yeah, not a massacre that involved a chainsaw. The Texas Massacre that involved a chainsaw with at least one of the kills. It just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Sometimes none of the kills.
Yeah, 3 I don't think has any chainsaw kills. And that one's the one where they specifically go, hey, look at this cool new super gold chainsaw, and it literally doesn't get used. Well, that's not true. It almost kills Ken Foray, but then in reshoots he doesn't die. But let's get back to this movie. The point being that this movie, credit to them for the chainsaw kills. There's a lot of them. I like it.
This movie really is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And none of the movies are. That's what it is.
He lifted him, then throws him off the chainsaw, which this gives Chrissy a chance to run. Leatherface starts to follow her, but there is a shot of him like losing her a little bit and deciding to go to a different door, which might be important. Because Chrissy, she escapes a little bit. She escapes. She makes it to the car. She gets in the car. She starts driving away. She sees like a state trooper talking to someone on the road. Like, she's going to be safe. No. Leatherface is pulling stoners from part 4 in the back seat. And he pops up and chainsaws her through the car, like the car's seat, and like kills her. Once again, credit to the movie. This is like our 4th chainsaw death. Cool.
One of the only movies, the only movie so far that hasn't had an actual final girl.
That's true. Which is one of those things where it's like both like, as an audience member, both kind of like, oh, okay. The final girl is cathartic. You have that like moment of like, yes, they did it. But also, to be fair to this movie, it kind of makes sense for there not to be, because if there was, why would the next movie have been able to exist? You would think something would have stopped them, because there was never mention of there being other killings before that movie started. So, I mean, I get it. I don't love it as an audience member, especially because I do think they did a really good job making me care about Chrissy throughout this movie. So I kind of wanted to see her be like, oh, cool, she's going to be the final girl. She's going to survive. Oh, she's dead. Oh, and you know what? Let's throw on 2 more kills, too, because he drives he doesn't drive, but the car crashes into that trooper and poor innocent civilian who's just on the side of the road talking to the cop. I guess he might have did some sort of traffic violation, so like he's not totally innocent, but he probably did not deserve to die here.
You were speeding. Time to go to hell.
Yeah, you were swerving or speeding or something. Die. But yeah, so they crash into them, killing them, and then Leatherface, he walks away in kind of slow motion from the carnage, holding his chainsaw, as the narrator tells us that they killed a total of 33 people from 1969 to 1973 in what is now known as the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's it. That's the movie. It's then go to
beginning.
Yeah, that's the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The beginning. Apparently, there was like 6 or so deaths in this movie, like 4 in the next. So they kill like 20 more people in between the movies, I guess, somewhere in that range. But hey, whatever. That's believable. They kill a lot of people in these 2 days, technically. So yeah. Final thoughts. I like it. It's not great. It's not art by any means, but it's fun. It's a fun time. It does have the Han Solo and prequel problems of answering questions I didn't ask, and me knowing that the villains have to survive. But the gore was really cool. The characters were well written. I enjoyed it. Is it like my favorite movie ever? No, not my favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie even. But think it's a little bit better. I do think it's better than the remake, which I, famously on this podcast was the only one to actually enjoy. Like, you guys both thought it was okay. I thought it was good. This one I thought was a little better. Still not great. But I didn't hate my time watching it. It was fun at times. Cool kills. It was a slasher film. And I enjoy those. So it's like, cool. Slasher film. With well-written characters, which is actually not normal for slasher films. So it had a plus. But yeah. But then it had the negatives of it was a Han Solo style movie that answered questions that I didn't care about, which felt borderline insulting my intelligence times of being like, okay, cool, we're back to this. Got it. That's where he got the hat. Thanks for the music cue. Like, there are definitely flaws in this movie that make it not even higher on my, like, I really enjoyed it scale. But I still overall thought it was fun. That's my thoughts.
Well, just like Austin, I also enjoyed this movie slightly more than I enjoyed the last movie. The characters, like Austin said, I thought were really well written, and all of the chemistry between them seemed very believable and authentic. And I will say, like, the gore in this movie was also pretty, like, solid and really set a standard. And I have to give this movie credit, especially now that we've brought light to it, that this is really the only movie that has been a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, like, at all. Like, even if some of the scenes surrounding it are a little bit like, beating you over the head with, hey, this is the thing that happened, and this is why this is like this. It still deserves some credit for doing what it did. Yeah, it was a little bit more entertaining, a little bit less of a nothing movie than the last movie was. But definitely still forgettable, except for, Arlie Ermy losing his teeth from getting his head bashed into concrete. We'll always have that in my memory now. Thank you. Thank you, the director of this movie.
Your biggest question has been answered.
Finally.
In your whole life.
Really.
Like, meaning of life?
Die.
Nah, I don't care. How did
I
Arlie
can die
Ermy lose his
happy
teeth?
now.
Yeah, dude, I'll echo all of that. Actually, last thing we touched on was the final girl. I thought that the lack of a final girl was really effective. One, for the reason Austin already mentioned, it's the prequel, so it makes sense for, like, if you just tease out the implications of having an escapee, what that would mean. But also, it does a really good job of setting up Leatherface as the monster for the next one. Something about seeing him walk away from the carnage, just shambling like a bear into the dark, was just really cool. And I think that was one of the best parts of this movie, was being able to expand on the first one in a way that was still faithful to it, without being unoriginal. It did still have a lot of, like, the unoriginal shots that we're used to seeing repeated in all these remakes, but I think the spirit of the first one really did motivate a lot of this movie. And in this case, we get the sense that, like, there's always a bigger fish, and that's Leatherface or the Hoyts, whatever you want to say.
The Korean War.
Yes, yeah.
Causing cannibalism, yeah.
I mean, actually, I think there's some legitimacy to that,
Yeah.
Like violence, there's always deeper layers to it, and so the biker gang, the state troopers, the sheriff, there's always something that can even envelop them, right? Which is, I guess, symbolized in Leatherface. The only thing I think that cheapened this movie, because so much of it was, I think it was just better done than the remake, and better than all of the previous remakes, like up to everything after the first one. The characters are just better, like, just higher quality, better dialogue, better investment in them. The only thing that cheapened it was that Leatherface just had no sympathy. Hoyt had a throwaway line before it became Hoyt saying, he's just misunderstood, without any explanation. And I thought, like, that's not convincing. I mean, all we see Leatherface do from start to finish is hack people up. And in every other iteration, there has been more effort made at saying like, oh, he's being manipulated, or he's mentally challenged and he doesn't really know what he's doing, or none of that was here. He just looked plain evil. Maybe that was what they meant to do, but it made him a very fundamentally different character. Other than that, I think if they had made efforts similar to previous movies of, having Leatherface be what Leatherface originally was, I would have enjoyed that more. Other than that, though, I got to appreciate most of the other aspects of the movie. So
cool. We all liked a movie. We haven't done that in a little while.
That's a good point.
But yeah, this has been this podcast today. If you like this podcast, head on over to your Spotify's, your Apples, your Googles, and give us a 5-star review. It helps people find us, and that'd be cool. We'd love to have more audience because it validates what we're doing. But yeah, this has been a fun episode. We will be back next week with Texas Chainsaw 3D. Whoa. A movie that I've never heard anything good about. But also, as this podcast has proven, we've had other movies that I had heard nothing good about that we really liked. I think back to, Jason X as well as the Friday the 13th reboot. Both of those movies were panned by fans of the franchise, so maybe we'll love this. I have a feeling not, but who knows? We might enjoy them. We also, I don't want to, say any names here because in case life happens and they can't be here, we will be joined by a new horror boy next week. So, what could that? What new horror boy? That's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll be back next week. I've been Austin, joined by Chris and Isaiah, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.